At Nürburgring Nordschleife, the hardest track in the world, nobody expects a surprise today. A few trucks with logos of an unknown technical company, a few mechanics in black clothes without emblems. A test session for GT3 sports program, nothing special. And yet, this day will enter motorsport history as the moment when one man showed the limits of preparation no longer exist. Under the name Franz Hermann, a person comes to the track. Millions know him, but nobody recognizes him today. Max Verstappen, four-time Formula One world champion, decided to check an idea that was growing in his head for several years. He wanted to prove that he can transform the human body and mind into an exact mechanism, where instincts and data no longer fight against each other. In this test, there was no camera, no spectators, only a driver, a car, and the legendary green hell, more than 20 kilometers long, a symbol of fear and perfection. Nobody could imagine how deeply Verstappen went into preparation. His career in Formula One was an example of complete control, but after the fourth championship, he looked for something more than victories. He needed to push the invisible limit between physical and digital, between reality and simulation, and he found this place at Nürburgring. Max always said that Formula One is not just a fight with competitors, but a science about yourself. From childhood, his father Joss made him repeat laps on karts until perfect rhythm. At 19, he already competed in the top class. At 23, he became world champion. At 27, 4 times. But the real change happened at the same Nürburgring, autumn 2020. Then cold weather, disappointment from the car, and delay at the pit stop became the catalyst for change. After the race, he sat in the car, looked in the mirrors, and told himself, "Control what depends on you." These words became the mantra of all his later career. In the following years, he turned the simulator into a weapon. First, it was a hobby, a few drives on network platforms and amateur online championships. But soon, the hobby became a laboratory. Thanks to the technical department Red Bull Advanced Technologies, he created a closed system. A simulator with real loads, vibrations, tire temperature, and even an algorithm that analyzed when exactly his brain gives commands to the body. This was not a game, but a scientific experiment. Verstappen always had the ability to notice small things that others ignored. He could tell the difference between two versions of an aerodynamic package without a single look at telemetry. Could remember the change in corner radius after road surface update. That's why sim racing became for him not virtual entertainment, but a field for real training. Every night after Formula One races, he sat in the simulator and drove again, sometimes for 12 hours without break. The team joked that his brain never turns off at all, but this was exactly his advantage. When in 2024, he won the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, and the next day won the 24-hour virtual marathon at Nürburgring, journalists saw this as curious. In reality, it was a demonstration of the system. He created a method where simulation and reality joined into one cycle. You train the brain in digital, then move the same algorithm to the real car. In his office in Monaco hung a poster with his own motto, "Focus equals freedom, focus gives freedom." And now, in May 2025, he checks this philosophy in pure form. No advertising, no press, only a GT3 car and 170 corners that change character after each pass. His car without colors. On the hood, only a tiny white circle with black number 33. In the team, several engineers from Red Bull and 2 new specialists in neurodynamic modeling. They don't ask questions. When Max puts on the helmet, talks end. His first laps pass with usual precision. Each section like a long-studied simulation path. The car listens to the smallest movement. The radio is silent. When he returns to the boxes, engineers look carefully at the graphs and can't believe. His time is less than the official GT3 record. Max doesn't comment. He just takes off the helmet and asks if there's another set of fresh tires. His face is calm. The look that in the Formula One paddock they call the attack mode look is now directed at himself. There's no aggression in it, only focus. He goes out to the track again. If the previous lap was mathematics, this is poetry. No sharp movements, no fight with the car. The car slides on the road like liquid, as if thinking together with the driver. The lap ends with another unofficial record. His team is silent, and the data is automatically encrypted in the local network. Nobody has the right to copy the results. But at any level, it's clear. He created something new. An algorithm of human driving without error. Nürburgring had personal meaning for Verstappen. Right here, many years ago, he experienced a moment that turned him from a talented racer into a champion. Then, in 2020, He understood that the poster with the words, "No complaining on the radio," is not a team joke, but the essence of racing. It continues not only on track, but inside a person. This experience became the foundation for what, in Formula One, will later be called the Verstappen era. His competitors Russell, Leclerc, Norris knew well. Max is not just fast, he works on a different level of awareness. In the paddock, there were legends that he even closes his eyes before the start, seeing in his mind the first 3 laps to the smallest steering movements. His confidence came not from self-confidence, but from the feeling that he already drove this race hundreds of times in his head. Simulation gave him advantage more than any engine update. While most drivers worked with engineers based on data from stands, Max already did virtual tests at home. He changed suspension settings based on his own reactions, and then moved these parameters to the real car. His driving technique became smoother and smoother, neural connections more precise. At Red Bull, they said he's more like artificial intelligence than a human. That's why the test at Nürburgring became a logical continuation. He wanted to make sure that the union of real and virtual reached complete joining. And when he finished another series of speed attempts, came the moment that analysts will later describe. The car entered the Flansgarten section, then short acceleration, braking, final climb. On the telemetry, a clean line. Acceleration completely even. Reaction to brakes without the smallest variation. Result, 7 minutes 45 seconds. This is more than a record. This is a challenge to physics. He stops the engine and gets out of the car. Nobody claps. Everyone just watches. Max opens a bottle of water, brings it to his lips and laughs quietly. From this laugh, light and short, the legend begins. Then he says a phrase that mechanics will remember. "I love when everything comes together." Nobody explains anything more. During the next few weeks, the test results remain a secret. But in mid-summer, the data leaks to sim racing forums. Someone publishes graphs, someone analyzes telemetry. And everyone notices the familiar driving style. The combination of smoothness and braking with minimum shift, the classic Verstappen signature. Discussion explodes. It's him. There's simply nobody else with such stability. Max himself doesn't comment. At the next Formula One press conference, he only smiles and says, "In sim racing, there are too many talented guys. Maybe this Hermann is among them." Reporters laugh. But in the motorsport world, everyone understands. If Verstappen denies something, it means there's something to hide. His approach to preparation becomes a subject of research in competing teams. Mercedes even creates a department of psychological synchronism. Ferrari introduces night simulation sessions, and McLaren invites former esports players as coaches. But nobody can repeat the Verstappen phenomenon, because the main difference is not in technologies, but in discipline. His day is planned to the minute, from sleep control to second-by-second repetition of routine before start. He doesn't just prepare for the race, he lives in an independent speed mode. Half a year later at the British Grand Prix, someone from journalists can't hold back and asks directly, did he really train secretly in GT3? Max answers simply, if someone behind the wheel was faster, wonderful. The world must move forward. These words sound not like avoiding, but like a program. He doesn't need confirmation of his own status, because his advantage is no longer in the title, but in the ability to think differently. The test at Nürburgring becomes a secret legend of the professional paddock. At Red Bull, they proudly but silently keep all data in the archive. They say that during analysis after that day, engineers discovered dozens of new patterns about the interaction of driver and car. Some of these solutions will later be used in the development of the next generation of cars. But officially, no connection with Verstappen is recognized. For Max, this day became the end of one era. He proved that you can reach the absolute not thanks to talent, but thanks to process. Formula One has always been a field where other drivers tried to beat the car. Verstappen showed that the future is in joining with it. In the moment when a person transforms into an extension of the engine, not its user. When in autumn 2025 he begins a new season, in his look appears a calm that usually only drivers have who understood the limit. He sits in the cockpit, hands motionless, face without fear. Nearby, someone from journalists says, he looks like he already knows the result. And maybe they're right. Because that person who once under the name Franz Hermann broke an impossible record has long been living a few seconds ahead of the rest of the world. Nürburgring became for him not just a track, but final proof that reality and simulation have already joined. And when Formula One historians remember the Max Verstappen era, they will not start with seasons, not with titles, and not with cars. They will start with this silent, secret test on the track in Eifel, where one spring day the world champion went beyond the limit of what people thought was possible in racing. A few months later, the secret reveals itself. In September, Verstappen officially announces his plan to compete at Nürburgring in the NLS Championship endurance races. The announcement is seen as normal participation in amateur competitions for fun, but those who know the truth understand this is a continuation of the experiment that started in spring under the name. To get the right to compete in the GT3 class, Verstappen goes through the official licensing process. He drives 2 introduction laps, passes a theory test, and gets Category B permission. This gives him the right to start in a 4-hour race in the GT4 class. Next, the result in GT4 will open the path to full performance in the GT3 class, and even in the legendary 24 hours of Nürburgring. In his comment before debut, Max says simply, "Racing is not only my profession, but also my hobby." He adds that Nordschleife is the first track on his list where he wanted to compete because it's very difficult and demanding, with huge length and difficult historical design. His words sound honest, but they hide subtext. He knows this track better than most drivers who've been driving here for years. On September 13th, Verstappen starts the first official GT race at Nordschleife behind the wheel of a Porsche Cayman GT 4 CS. The result is predictable. He finishes in prizes, showing stability that surprises even experienced series participants. His pace is not aggressive, but constant. He doesn't risk, but doesn't lose either. It looks like a test during which he simply confirms data collected in the virtual world. 2 weeks later, on September 27th, he gets Category A permission and starts in the GT3 class behind the wheel of a Ferrari. This is already a completely different level. GT3 is cars with 500 horsepower, difficult aerodynamics, and sharp competition. Here compete professional drivers with many years of endurance racing experience, and Verstappen races against them. The race lasts 4 hours, 100 cars on track, 24 kilometers of forest corners where a mistake costs not just positions, but possibly the car too. Here there's no radio with an engineer in every corner, no telemetry in real time, only driver, car, and track that Jackie Stewart once called the green hell. Max starts carefully. The first laps he evaluates car behavior, adapts to the real pace of competitors, but already after an hour it becomes clear. He drives faster than most. His lines are clean, braking precise, corner exits perfect. This doesn't look like a debut. This looks like repetition of a long practice scenario. Commentators in live broadcast discuss his performance with excitement. One of them notes that Verstappen drives as if he knows every meter of track by heart. Another adds that his style reminds of simulation racers' perfectly repeatable paths without the smallest improvisation. They don't suspect how close to truth they are. At the end of the race, Max finishes on the podium in his class. This is a sensation for a beginner, but for himself, an expected result. When journalists ask how he managed to adapt so quickly, he answers shortly, "I prepared for a long time." He doesn't explain anything more. In the paddock among engineers and competitors, discussion will continue for weeks. Someone says he's just a genius. Someone suggests he used data from secret tests. But the truth is that Max Verstappen created a preparation system that unites digital and physical into one whole. He didn't just study Nürburgring, he became part of it. His victory at Nürburgring is not just a story about talent or car. This is a story about how one driver rethought the very idea of preparation in sport. He showed that the future of racing is not in engine power or aerodynamics perfection, but in the ability of a person to transform themselves into a predictable, exact, and unbreakable mechanism. When motorsport historians write about the 2020s era, they will remember not only 4 Formula One titles. They will remember the spring day in May 2025, when under the name Franz Hermann, Max Verstappen broke the record at Nordschleife, and then in autumn of the same year returned under his own name and proved to the whole world, preparation is science, and he became its best researcher. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow.